Ladies and gents, how do you do? Welcome to Esztergom. We are here today in Esztergom to explore the life and times of one of my very favorite characters in all of Hungarian history. The man, the myth, the legend, Bottyán János, aka Vak Bottyán, Blind Bottyi. Ooh. The bell strikes. He lived, quite a tumultuous, heroic, and inspirational life. And as we walk through the streets of ancient old Esztergom, I shall bring you the tale. You know, they call him Vak Bottyán, Blind Bottyi, but he wasn't really blind. He just had one eye, which he lost in battle. But way before then, he was born in the 1640s, somewhere right around here in Esztergom. And he was born to an impoverished noble family. When we talk about nobility, we often think of gilded carriages and mansions and riches. But that wasn't really the case, particularly not in the riotous, rollicking 17th century. And Vak Bottyán, he was born into the impoverished, landless ranks of the nobility, which is perhaps even more embarrassing in some ways than being a peasant in the first place. Because there you are, amongst the higher social class, but you don't have anything to show for it. And that was the case for his father. And while János was born into the Reformed faith, pretty soon he was changing a bit from what his family's wishes were. And he went up north to a place called Nagy Szombat, Big Saturday. Today it's known as Trnava in Slovakia, but back then it was a Hungarian hotbed. And János fell in with a group of Jesuits who converted him from Protestant into Catholic. And for that, János was disinherited. But of course, the Bottyáns didn't really have any wealth in the first place, so he wasn't losing much. Look at this here, the Pálinka Patika, the Pálinka Pharmacy. And here we have a little slice of history. 1838, March 13th, this was how high the Danube rose. The big flood killed a lot of people. That's when Wesselany made his mark and rescued all the folks from the river. But back to Bottyán János, because now he's on his own. He's up north in the Felvidék, and he's beginning to fight many battles against the Turks. And he makes his name as a brave and fearsome military man. So during the 1660s, 1670s, János is growing in stature. And it's at the end of the 1670s when one of his most famous deeds is said to have taken place. And this is one of those deeds that may very well be a tall tale. But with men like Bottyán János, these tales blend into reality to create the legend and the myth. And this legend is said to have taken place in a spot called Esztergom, which was one of the many fortresses all around the Felvidék in the north of the Hungarian kingdom. And János and his men, they're stationed outside, besieging the Turks. And János looks to them and says,
"Hey, fellas, what do you say? I can't get into the fortress over there while the Muzayin is coming to prayer, and throw him down the tower. Not only that, but I'm gonna escape with my life."
And his men are like, "All right, 6,000 forints, Yanchi. If you can do it, we'll pay up." And so he dresses himself up in Turkish clothing. You know, flowing robes, a headpiece, yada, yada, yada. And he marches right into the fortress at Esztergom. And as the Muzayin comes to call the afternoon prayer, He's standing up on the tower, and János comes up behind him and pushes him off. He then proceeds to run down the tower steps. 2 shots to the Turks at the gate. Runs away. Back to camp. Collects the 6,000 forints and shares it amongst his men. Now the legend is beginning to grow and grow and grow and grow. And this is at the start of the 1680s. And now the Turks are beginning to scurry out of Hungary with their tails between their legs. 1683, Vak Bottyán comes back to his native Esztergom, takes back the castle. 1685, he defends that very same castle. 1686, the famous recapture of Buda by the combined allied forces from all over Christendom. They come and the Turks are donezo. Oh, look at this. Had no idea. Bottyán János híd. This is the Vak Bottyán híd. Glorious. And for his efforts in these battles, Emperor Leopold, Emperor Leopold, as he's known in Hungary, is quite grateful indeed. And so Bottyán is granted from Emperor Leopold a mansion and many lands around here amongst his native territory of Esztergom. And after recapturing Belgrade, aka Nándorfehérvár, in the early 1690s, Bottyán János officially becomes Vak Bottyán. For in 1692, he loses his eye in battle. You can imagine why a man like that would become such a hero. And the 1690s in Hungary are quite a transformative period, because just like in the modern day, when the Soviets came in and liberated Hungary from the Germans and then became their oppressors, well, it was much the same with the Austrians. And there's a few years until rebellion reaches a boiling point in 1703, when Második Rákóczi Ferenc officially declares liberty and war. Oh, what do we got here? Negyedik Béla. Oh, my favorite Béla. Negyedik Béla. And here is Bottyán János utca. Wow. Blind Bottyi, he's really a fixture in Esztergom. Love to see it. Now at the start of the Rákóczi Szabadságharc, the Rákóczi Rebellion, the Rákóczi Forradalom, the Rákóczi War of Independence, you may assume that Vak Bottyán may have instantly been on the side of the Hungarian freedom fighters. But you would be assuming wrong. And it's not that surprising when you think about it. I mean, Vak Bottyán, he was given quite a lot by Emperor Leopold. He gained his lands, he gained his rank, he gained his status, and he's a military guy, you know? He's gonna fight for his superior commander. So he's stationed at a castle called Zoyom, which again is up there in the north, in the Felvidék, modern-day Slovakia. When the Kurucs, they come to town, and they are looking to take the castle over. Who were the Kurucs? Well, you got two sides. You got the Labans, and you got the Kurucs. And the Kurucs, they were the Hungarians. The Labans, they were the Austrians. But there were many Hungarians on the Laban side, because this was an empire, and a lot of the ranks of the military, particularly in the Hungarian domains, were made up of Hungarians, just like Bottyán. And so when the Kurucs come in and they say, give us this castle, you know, Vak Bottyán, he's not having none of it. And he's an old school guy. He's almost 60 years old at this point in the fall of 1703. And so you can imagine this 60-year-old, one-eyed military general come riding out to discuss terms with the invading forces. And what does he say? He says,
I'll fight you for it. We're gonna have a duel, just like we used to do in the good old days.
oh, Saint István and Saint Imre, his son. Poor Saint Imre. Died so young. They say it was a hunting accident. I have my doubts. Well, right across that bridge on the other side is Slovakia. What do you guys say? Let's take a little stroll and head to a foreign country? Why not? When we get back, we'll hear about the fights between Vak Bottyán and Ochkai Laszlo, the 23-year-old that challenges him. All right, that was a nice trip to Slovakia. Let's head back to Hungary. What is this thing? Anyone know what this is? Very interesting. I mean, that playing in traffic is the Slovakian state symbol. Playing in traffic. But I do not know what this is. I can't really figure this out. What are you gonna do? Okay. So now, after all of this, Vak Bottyán versus Ochkai, Vak Bottyán, Ochkai, Vak Bottyán, Ochkai. They basically beat the shit out of each other. Hello, Jonapot. And they're laying on the battlefield, bloody, senseless, an inch away from death. And what does Vak Bottyán do? He says to the guys on the Kurut side, you know what? I'm getting sick of these goddamn Austrians anyway. Let's cut a little deal. I'll come over to the Kuruts. I'll give you Zoyom Castle. And that's the deal. Look at the Maria Valeria Bridge, named after the daughter of Franz Joseph and Empress Sisi, Maria Valeria. And we'll hear more about Empress Sisi because our next episode is gonna be in Vienna, aka Bécs. But now back to the tale at hand, because Vak Bottyán, he returns to Esztergom to recover from his wounds. But the Imperial forces, they know something's up. They smell a rat, and they figure it out that Vak Bottyán had given up the castle at Zoyom. So they put him at chains, put him on a barge, and start rowing down the Duna towards Vienna. But if there's one thing that you need to know about Vak Bottyán, it's that when he's down, he ain't out. And while his captors are waiting at Nyerges Újfalu for the night, the Kuruts, they come and they rescue him. Actually, believe it or not, with the assistance of his wife, who's later imprisoned by the Imperial forces. But the important point is that Vak Bottyán, Blind Bottyi, has sprung free, and he shows up at the camp of Második Ferenc Rákóczi, covered in mud and blood. And what does he say? He says,
I am here to fight.
And Második Rákóczi Ferenc, he's a big fan of this. And so Vak Bottyán, this one-eyed lunatic in his 60s, is named captain of the Trans-Danubian forces. And he starts winning battles all over the shop. Kuruts, 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 Labans, Labans, Labans. It's Frankie Flower. We see him everywhere we go. Look at that chin. Look at that chin. What a chin. Could have been a great boxer. Balashi Balint, warrior poet. We're gonna have to come back here once upon a time when the weather is warm to talk more about Balashi Balint. You know, I've done 2 episodes in Esztergom, and both times the weather's been pretty crummy. I can't wait to see this place in its full spring/summer pomp. Hey, hi, how are you?
I follow you on Instagram.
Oh, really? Nagyon örülök. Most csinálok egy Esztergom videó. Hello. Örülök.
Én is.
Willy vagyok.
Én meg Kis Anna.
Kis Anna. Nagyon örülök. Elnézést. Hello.
Ő az anyukám. Anna. Ő pedig
Nagyon örülök.
amerikai vagy?
Amerikai.
Jó, aki oda van Magyarországon és magyarul tanul, ő neki mutattam egyszer múltkor, valami verset mondott magyarul.
Igen.
Ó, de örülök.
Köszi szépen. Mert igazából feleségem magyar, és igazából én a családom jönnek Felvidékból Amerikáig 1882.
Ó, gratulálok. Ó, de jó. Tök jó.
Nagyon örülök.
Én is.
I don't know why this guy's a little bit angry. Cool statue though. Oh, I love meeting the fans. Whenever you guys come up to me when I'm out in the wild, it just puts a big old smile on my face. I mean, I usually have a smile on my face anyway, truth be told. But now the smile's deep in my heart. That is why I love doing this. It's for all of you. So Vak Bottyán, as one of the highest ranking members of Rákóczi's army, he's a little bit unique because Rákóczi's military leadership, it mostly is comprised of nobles. And I'm talking about the higher up aristocratic nobles. And Vak Bottyán, as we know from his story today, he was technically a noble, but nobody really saw him like that. They saw him as a man of the people. And he behaved like that during the Rákóczi War of Independence. Now we'll cover the Rákóczi Szabadság Harc in fuller detail some other day. But what's important to know for now is that even by the time 1709 rolled around and every hope has been seemingly squandered and lost, Vak Bottyán never gave up. No, 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 no. He continued to inspire and lead and fight for what was right until his last breath. And he died that very year, 1709, from natural causes, in his tent, meningitis, not a battle wound, because no one could lay a scratch on that one-eyed man with his battle axe, at least not one that killed him. And to this day, we remember Vak Bottyán, Blind Bottyi, Bottyán János, Johnny Boats, for the qualities that he embodied: loyalty, faith, perseverance, and justice. Louis the Great, Nagy Lajos. And who do we got over here? None other than Johnny Hunyadi. Great bayous. Potentially my favorite bayous of them all. Johnny Hunyadi. You know, Magyars gets all the fame, but Johnny Hunyadi, he started things off. All right, well, that's all she wrote from Esztergom, an ancient city on the Danube. What a pleasure that was to film and create for all of you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching. And now, if I could ask you one more thing, or two more things actually. Thing number one, share this video with a friend. Thing number two, check out my Patreon page. We keep this channel running with your support, and it would be such a pleasure to have you join our community. Have a lovely day, and I shall see you very soon. Johnny Hunyadi, look at those calves. There's no way that he had calves like that. I'm not buying it.